Hey, what up? This is Passion 9, Passion 9, the Otaku Flame, coming to you from the blistering cold tundra that is January. Oh man, I hate this part of winter. It's so long, it's so cold. I'm freaking homeless. Well, not like living on the street homeless. I have a warm place to stay. It's not my place. It's somebody else's. You know how it is. You live under somebody else's roof. It's a little hard to do the things you want to do, like record video content. It's a one-bedroom apartment. I don't have my own indoor space anywhere right now to record content. And I will go crazy if I don't record video content when I have things I want to talk about. So here I am standing in the middle of a park in the blistering cold. I have to do it. I have to do something to keep my mind going and not falling apart in these dark times we're living in. But speaking of dark, Resident Evil 9 got a new showcase last week, Resident Evil 9 Requiem. It looks good. I still love everything about it. There wasn't like a ton of new information. It was pretty, I don't know, it wasn't like, we didn't have any earth-shattering like reveals or anything, but it was a cool showcase. The little bit we did see has only further confirmed that I think this game is going to be really good. It has the potential to be the best Resident Evil game ever made. The potential is there. I'm not quite going in with those expectations because those are dangerously high expectations to have. But it clearly is carrying like the best ingredients of past Resident Evil games. We've got Leon doing his RE4 shit. We've got Grace, newcomer Grace, doing RE2, RE7 stuff. And I think it's a great mix, man. That's peanut butter and jelly. That's good shit. You put the Leon in the Grace and you mix it all around, it's just like the lime in the coconut. It's good shit. I'm very, very excited for it. Weirdly enough, there are journalists I trust, people I follow online that I usually trust and respect their opinions. I still do, even when I disagree with them, but some of them are thinking this is going to be another RE6, that this is like heading in another doomed direction for the series, and they'll have to like, whatever 10 ends up being will be like the reboot that helps reset it again like 4 and 7 did. And I'm like, what are you smoking? The Capcom of today is not capable of making Resident Evil 6. At least that's my feelings. That's if I were a betting man. Have we seen the stuff they've been doing lately, not just with Resident Evil, but every other franchise? I mean, the worst Resident Evil game that Capcom has put out in the last several years since 7 helped reboot the series. The last time that they made a game that was like not great was the RE3 remake. And that mostly just came down to being a very slim package. It just didn't have enough. There wasn't enough content in that game. That was the problem most people had. It's not that the game itself was bad. It was just it felt like DLC. It felt like it should have been a DLC pack for RE2 remake, to be completely honest. The Ada Separate Ways campaign for 4 actually, like, almost felt as linear and as short as the RE3 remake. So, like, the fact that, they tried to sweeten the deal with that very slim short remake with that multiplayer mode that they added to it. I forget what the hell it was called, but it wasn't a good package. So, like, that's the worst they've done in the last several years with Resident Evil, and maybe just any of their games in general. That was, like, as bad as it got. And even that was a high-quality campaign. I mean, as incredibly, light on content as it was still cool. Like, like, it's still way better than anything we did in 6. 6 was just a game with too much crap crammed into it, ironically. It was the opposite. It was too much. And it lacked focus. It lacked polish. It was a game that was a little too all over the place. And that's not the Capcom of today. Capcom of today gave us RE7, Like, and everything they put out since then. And I mean, okay, Resident Evil 8 was a little messy. It was a little sloppy, but it was also very memorable, and there was never a point in that game where I wasn't having fun. Everything in that game was engaging and entertaining, even when it went a little off the rails sometimes towards the end. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that. I think the quality that Capcom puts in their games now, I don't think they're capable of making an RE6. And of course, I can explain why these journalists feel that way. They think, oh, they're bringing back like stuff from previous games now with Umbrella again, and they're getting away from like the more, I don't know, I guess the more standalone stuff from 7 and 8. You know, they're getting to the point now where like they're bringing back an old Umbrella scientist of some kind, and oh, there's Leon, he's back, and oh, they're doing more than one gameplay style. 6 did more than one gameplay style, and it's like, yeah, but dude, I strongly disagree. I feel like these people, damn, this camera shake. Sorry, it's cold. I feel like these people are ignoring the fact that Capcom has changed so much since they made RE6. I think that's where my frustration is with that opinion, why I can't agree. You know, I respect the opinion, but I don't agree. It's like, especially after this showcase, the game looks better than ever. It looks really good. It looks a lot more focused. Yes, they're splitting up gameplay styles, but they're combining the best of Resident Evil. They're taking the best slow, creepy horror stuff and combining it with the more action-heavy stuff. I think that could work, you know? I think worst case scenario, because the question is, I think RE9 will be very good. The question is, how good? I think it's going to be either exactly like 7 and 8, because even Resident Evil 8 combined a lot of slow, creepy horror, House Beneviento, Castle Dimitrescu, with RE4 style action. The werewolves, the factory, like, it kind of went back and forth with that stuff. The difference is you were only playing as one character in that game, so honestly it felt a little less justified. This time they're doing something very smart. When you're playing as Leon, he's got experience with BOWs. He can kick a lot of ass more easily. He is a veteran when it comes to fighting BOWs. Grace is not, you know, so it makes more sense to make the game scarier then. You know, the player is going to feel more vulnerable playing as her. They're going to feel less experienced, and that will make it kind of easier to believe in. You know, it'll make more sense when you're playing as her and you're like, oh shit, I feel a little more helpless. You know, she may have guns, she may be able to defend herself. We've seen that in the showcase. She's not helpless by any means. It's not going to turn into Clock Tower, but like, she's definitely like more out of her element. You know what I mean? She's not used to fighting BOWs. She's a trained agent, but she's not used to dealing with monsters. You know what I mean? And that to me makes it more exciting to have these two different characters. You know, we'll get our action fix when we're playing as Leon, but it makes sense, you know? It makes sense. There's more like context for why we're shifting back and forth. I actually like the idea. But, you know, for some people, I guess it's like, no, this is the Resident Evil cycle. Every once in a while, they got to reboot it because it starts to suck or goes stale. And I guess that's kind of true. I mean, after like Code Veronica and Zero, people were complaining that Resident Evil was getting stale. I don't think it was necessarily like bad at that point. Because yeah, Code Veronica I don't like. When it comes to the first generation of Resident Evil split into 3 generations. You have the tank control generation, and the worst one out of all those I thought was Code Veronica, followed by Zero. But you gotta remember too, like, Remake and Zero were still well received when they came out, for the most part, even if they felt the series was kind of getting a little tired. But then 4 came around and shook things up and rebooted it. So yeah, I get where they're coming from. 6 was a lot more extreme. With 6, it was like, wow, this one's just straight up bad. This is the worst mainline Resident Evil so far. But then they rebooted it again with 7. Whew, it's so fucking cold. Anyway, so I get it. There's a cycle. There is kind of a cycle. But it's important to understand why those things were happening. You know, with the first generation of Resident Evil, I do just think, okay, it needed a shake up. It was getting a little predictable, a little tired. It never really hit like a Resident Evil 6 level of bad at that point. It was just like, before 4 came around, it was just like, it was getting a little predictable, a little stale. They needed something new to shake up the series. And they did. But then you had 5, which was like a little iffy and kind of dampened some of the things that made 4 so good. And then you had 6, which just like doubled down way too much on the co-op shit and too many gameplay styles that just feel like they're ripping off other games rather than being Resident Evil. And it was just kind of a big old mess. So, yeah, there is sort of a cycle. 7 came along, rebooted it again. But is 9 going to be that game? Everything I've seen of it, everything they're showing, it looks good. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, we won't know until we get our hands on it, I guess. But I'm still very much of the opinion that 9 is going to be good. It's either going to be as good as 7 and 8. That's the worst case scenario, in my opinion. It'll at least be as good as those two, which is still pretty good. I wouldn't be too upset. But I'm also hoping, and it's still a possibility, that it could be even better than those two games. It could combine the best elements of those two games and past games and eliminate the flaws that 7 and 8 had. I'm hoping that it's a little less, a little less on rails than 7 and 8, because sometimes they had a tendency to be a little too scripted and, especially like their intros. I'll go ahead and say it. I think 8 has one of the worst intros in the series. When you're just holding the baby and you're in that house and like it's one of the things I hate about replaying that game. It's like, oh, I gotta walk around the house again with this baby. Like, what a weird way to start a Resident Evil game. Even 7, I mean, 7's intro is kind of a pain to play through again on multiple playthroughs because it's long, but at least it is a great intro, like for a horror game, and it is creepy. 8 is like, oh, you're carrying this baby around, and then Chris shows up out of nowhere and just guns everybody down, and it's like kind of weird, kind of random. Yeah, I feel like you could have handled everything that was so cool about 8 without having that storyline, without having Chris do that. They could have just been working together. We didn't need this silly twist where, like, yeah, there were a lot of weird things about 8. But both 7 and 8, they both had like scripted story stuff that felt like it took too long to get to the gameplay. I just hope 9 eliminates that. Less of that. I still love good cinematic cutscenes in between the gameplay, but don't go giving me long scripted gameplay sequences that are so on rails and you have to go through all these motions and you can't skip it because it's still gameplay, and it's like, oh, just don't do that to me. If it still has that, well, I still really enjoyed 7 and 8. So as long as it's high quality in 7 and 8, when it comes to memorable moments and set pieces, I'll still love it. But, yeah, we'll see how it turns out. We'll see if my gut instincts are more correct. I just don't think Capcom's capable of making a bad game right now, whether it's Resident Evil or anything else. I just don't think they're capable of it. But we'll see. We will see, Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe I'll be proven right. But we will see. They were also trying to sell a car and some watches. So, like, I'm not going to say the entire showcase was entertaining. A lot of people complained about this, I guess rightfully so, that half of the showcase was just them selling merchandise. Albeit very cool looking merchandise, but it's mostly aimed at like rich people. A couple of like expensive watches and a fucking Porsche that is related to the game because Leon drives it. But it's like I guess Resident Evil is James Bond now. Where it's like, I mean, to be fair, if James Bond can get away with it, and those are fun movies, if you want to sell a car, Capcom, to rich people to make back more money so that you can make more luxurious games like this, go ahead. I ain't gonna sweat it. Like, I don't want a fucking watch. I don't need a Porsche. Even some of the merch that, like, obviously is more affordable for normal people, like those figures they showed off, like, cool. I mean, I am a figure collector, of course, but as a rule, I really only stick to anime figures. I'm not really big on realistic figures of realistic characters. They're still cool looking. I mean, I could see people wanting those, but like watches and a Porsche, like obviously this is just Capcom's way of saying, hey, if you got the money, we could sure use it. Well, might as well. We're that big of a company now, and we're that wealthy of a company that we can sell stuff to these kinds of people. And the way I see it, I'm not gonna get like annoyed by that stuff just because it's like, well, I don't know, man. If they keep making great games and the games continue to be good, because that's all I want from Capcom. They're a game company. I want great games. Yeah, so it might have been slightly annoying that we didn't get more actual game coverage, and they're over here selling cars and watches. It didn't annoy me when Kojima does it, and it doesn't annoy me when Capcom does it, simply because if they're putting out really great work, and that's where the money is going, then go ahead, sell to fat cats. Sell this merch to fat cats somewhere. Like I said, some of that stuff was obviously affordable, like the Switch 2 Pro controller they were selling, and obviously the usual like pre-order crap. If anything, that annoys me more, just because that's not a Capcom thing. Obviously, that's all games do that now. But it's like, obviously, like that's something. I do miss when games used to just give you this shit by playing the game, but whatever, that's the standard. What are you gonna do? Like, some people will spring for that stuff. I'm probably not going to. I never do pre-orders. If the game is good enough, fine, I'll just get the game. The game's $70. That's good enough for me. But overall, good showcase. Good, still looking like a good game. I'm still excited for game. Game looked good. Will buy game. As long as I don't hear anything terrible about it before it comes out. And that would be very shocking, given their track record lately. But we will see. We will see. All these franchises and all these things that are being made, they make me happy. Talking about them makes me happy. Making this content, part of it is like therapy to me. Talking about the things I love helps me to better process and cope with the things that I cannot control, that are frustrating and happening in this world. It could be tough, like I do what I can to tune it out, because it's not that I don't keep up with the headlines and the things that are happening lately. They're scary, but like I have to, being a millennial, I'll swipe my phone and check the headlines and see if there's anything like earth-shattering that I absolutely have to read. But if there's nothing too crazy, I mostly just avoid it, because I don't want to be depressed all day long, I would lose my mind. And I have been. It's been very hard. It's been very challenging. In my last video, I covered a lot of that stuff. I talked about, I had to get it off my chest. I had to regurgitate it, if that's the word, in some fashion, using my own words, on my own channel, on my own time, rather, because like when that's hitting your head and it's going into your ears and you're hearing it all the time, even when you do your best to tune it out all day, like it's hard not to process it. You know what I mean? It's hard. You have to do something with it. Like it or not, I have been hearing about all this shit, and maybe it's not all bad if I at least am talking about it in a way that is positive. You know what I mean? Even though the subject matter is very dark, still lots of bad things happening out there. With old Trumpty Dumpty. He's the villain. He's the bad guy. We now live in a world, like it's hard for me to accept that I now live in a reality where there is a villain. There is an all-powerful, all-evil villain, right up there with Darth Vader or whatever, you know what I mean? Or Voldemort or some shit. There's a big bad villain that is like in charge of everything right now, who is doing bad things. And that's my reality now, I go to watch my favorite animes and play my favorite video games and whatever. And it's like they usually involve big bad villains that have to be taken down. And it's like there's something kind of scary about the fact that like a villain not far removed from those kinds of villains is in control and in power right now of where I live. That is hard to process. And yeah, it kind of gnaws away at you a little bit because unlike these heroes that we love so much, these characters and everything, we can't just go and slay the bad guy. You know, I can't do anything about it. You know, I'm in no position to do anything about it. You know, I'm barely holding my own life together. How the hell am I going to go and save America or the world? You know, like it's scary is all I'm saying. Um, that's why it keeps coming up because it's like, on one hand, I like talking about the stuff I love, but at some point, I can't go without, you know, processing the reality as well because the reality is there. I'm a Bob Dylan fan. I like Bob Dylan. Who doesn't like Bob Dylan? The Times There Are Changin' is a good one. It's a good song. It has a really good lyric. It has some of the best writing I've ever heard of any song ever. Because Bob Dylan's a great fucking writer. And one of my favorite line in that whole song is, "Your old road is rapidly aging. Get out of the new one if you can't lend a hand." I fucking love that line, bro. I love that line because it's so fucking true. Um, you know, like your old way, your old world is fading. You know, times are changing as they always do. Do not cling to the past. You know, get out of the way of the new if you're not going to help it along, if you're just going to impede progress, you know, and cause stagnation and cling to a dangerous, toxic level of nostalgia, you know? And I just think that's a great line. It's a great line to quote because it's like, it's so fucking good, bro. That's why that song is so immortalized and people love it so much. To beware of darkness, beware of greedy leaders. It's another great line. They'll take you where you should not go. It's what we're dealing with right now. It's what we're fucking dealing with right now. That was a song from the 70s. I mean, yeah, there was greedy leaders back then too. I understand it was relevant at the time, but still, it's never been more relevant than now. Like, fuck, man, them hippies knew what the fuck they were talking about. You know, we all like to make fun of hippies, but no, they so I mean they weren't all worth listening to, but some of them were. Some of them knew what the fuck they were talking about, you know? Um, yeah, like, beware of greedy leaders. Very true, very true. Um, MAGA, man, the MAGA people are just, they're just clinging to a past that no longer exists. Too much nostalgia. I said this in my last video. Too much nostalgia is a dangerous thing, you know? There is a healthy amount of nostalgia. It's okay to celebrate the past. It's okay to look back at old things or old ways of life and tent them a little bit, you know? But if it gets to the point where you're clinging so hard to the past that you're getting in the way of progress, getting in the way of new ideas, new innovations, new ways of living, new forms of acceptance and equality, then you are a fucking problem. Your nostalgia is a fucking problem. Being afraid to let the kids of today and the world of today live, you know? It's just, we got people getting tear gassed. We got people getting shot, killed in the streets. We got these ICE motherfuckers, these dangerous fucking, this secret police. I mean, we're at a point now where basically Trump has made it so that people aren't even allowed to investigate ICE facilities. They're not allowed to investigate ICE as a police force. Like, he literally has his own private police force now that nobody can control, like nobody can interfere with. Again, I'll bring up what he said. Nothing could stop me now but my own morality, my own mind. This is the motherfucker that you voted for. This is the person these people wanted in control of our country. And then think of this. People like Renee Good that were shot unarmed, mother of 3 kids, shot and killed in the street. If you voted for this man, even with all the red flags, even with all the warnings, even with all the dangers that were obvious every time he stood in front of a podium, every time he spoke, if you voted for this man anyway because of your own personal struggles, if you were that selfish and that desperate, then just know that you are responsible. You are responsible for what's happening right now. You are responsible for the death of Renee Good. And that basically makes you a murderer. So everybody that voted this man in power is a murderer. They're basically complicit. If you really stop and think about how that works, right? How that works. You knew what kind of person this was. We had him as president once already, and you elected him again after everything he said on his campaign, after everything he was saying while he was racing against Kamala Harris and even Biden. The whole time he was campaigning again, if you still voted for him, then yeah, I have no problem saying that everybody that voted him into power, including family members that I know, who I've written off completely for this reason, you are a murderer. You are responsible for this. You are behind this. Even the ones that might have developed a conscience when this happened and might be regretting it or feeling remorse, good. You should feel remorse, not just for our current administration, our current leadership. You should feel remorse for yourself because you are disgusting. This might be a regular thing with all my content going forward. Sorry, until this bastard is out of office. As if things continue to get worse, I'm going to continue to preach, motherfuckers. So either unsubscribe or put your fist up and say, hell yeah, passion. Okay? I am totally ready to lose more subscribers because of what I'm saying. I don't care. You'll notice I always start off with the things I love, with some nerd talk, because I still want to talk about that stuff, number one. But number two, I start off with that stuff because I want people to realize that if you stick around long enough, you are going to hear some deep, honest feelings from me. Because at this point, it's almost like therapy. I have to get it off my chest. So if that rubs you the wrong way, go watch somebody else. I don't fucking care. I'm being candid. I don't care. Okay? This is my channel. I'm not looking for success. I'm not looking to fucking make money off of this. I don't care. I don't care about my subscriber numbers. I don't care about views. You know, I'd still like you to subscribe and leave a like or something. It's nice, but if you don't want to do that, fine. It's not going to change the content I'm putting out because this is my channel. And no matter what I talk about, I'm going to keep talking about it, you know? And I would rather get subscribers and I'd rather get likes from people that like what I'm doing than people who want me to do something else. Go watch somebody else. There's fucking thousands of people on YouTube. So for those of you who stick around and are probably hearing this, they're probably the people that want to stick around and like what I have to say, hopefully. Thank you for doing that. And yeah, fuck MAGA, fuck Trump. And let's hope that he gets out of power soon and I can spend more time talking about the shit I love and a little less time about, you know, a little less time talking about the fate of our country right now, which right now is looking incredibly grim and fucked up. But anyway, putting all that aside, still a passionate guy who loves video games and anime, and I will continue to talk about those as well. So, until next time, you get to burning and live for the passion.